So this opportunity this morning is to listen and hopefully encouragement to trust in your own experience of this present moment. And so like reflecting, bringing attention to the way it is. And rather than thinking or trying to figure out how it is. And so when you try to think about what you're hearing, or think about yourself and what you're feeling at this moment, then you get caught in the habits of analysis, of self-view, your own opinions, views, memories, reactions, and that's not reflecting. That's not observing, it's merely being caught in the stimulation that comes or the reactions that you might have to what you're hearing or what's happening to you at this time. So reflecting and awareness, sati sampajanya, isn't something that we think about, but something we recognize. It takes patience. Because the rational world, the thinking world, the personalities that we have are based not on patient reflection on the way things are, but on holding to memories, views, opinions, and being caught in the momentum of our habit, emotional habits, our reactions. So like when one identifies even with Buddhism, then this, they, as a convention and as an identity, then we tend to get defensive or when we feel Buddhism is being attacked or being demeaned in any way, or our particular view is being challenged, then we easily get caught into reacting to that. So the attitude, say, of sati sampajanya is attention, but this sense of relaxed openness. So now just kind of tell yourself, kind of encourage yourself to just relax, let go of everything. You don't have to prove or know or even understand what I'm saying, just to open to the present. In this broad way, not to anything in particular. So when we say attention, then we usually think attention to a particular thing, to what I'm saying, or to some object. But this mindfulness doesn't need an object. It's not that we have to pay attention to something, but to just be in the state of attention, of awareness, which means being alert, mindful, and this is done through a relaxation rather than an effort to try to pay attention. Now, whatever you're feeling right now, sleepy or dull or bright or whatever emotional or physical experience that you're having right now, sati sampajanya is aware of it. It is what it is, bringing attention to this moment, this present reality. So like the body, the posture, just by bringing it into consciousness. When I do this, then I'm aware of where my legs are, hands, if there's any tension or stress in the body. And it's, and this isn't the effort to try to change it, but just by receiving it, allowing it to be what it is, rather than to, if you feel tension, to think you have to try to get rid of it, or if you're feeling sleepy or dull, that you should try to conquer it or annihilate it. This isn't anything about getting or controlling or getting rid of, but recognizing. Listening, this sense of opening, the sense of this broad spectrum of just paying attention through listening. Not for anything, not trying to focus on any particular thing, on any sound, but just this sense of poised attention, openness, receptivity. And so these are words of encouragement, not commands or imperatives that I'm telling you how you should be, but these are encouragements pointing to that, so that you're not trying to tell you what to do, but just share my own knowledge from my practice, ways that I've had insight and understanding of Dhamma that might be of benefit to you. Patient endurance is necessary. Means that we're, the reactivity, the habit patterns we have, restlessness, or when things aren't the way we like, or just reactivity, we easily get caught into it. So patient endurance is recommended. Being able to bear with, endure what the restlessness or the any negative states or feelings you might be having at this time, physical, mental, emotional. Because without patient endurance, then we easily, we're just helpless victims of the habit patterns, the conditioning of the mind and body. And just subjected to their impressions, and we react accordingly. So patient endurance allows us to recognize reactions, habits, and enduring means we allow ourselves to feel that and endure that impression. Allow it to be what it is, not try to get rid of it or just be moved by it. So this sati sampajanya is a natural state. It's not, you try to create it through conceiving it, that it's something that you define and create an image of sati sampajanya in your brain, and then try to make yourself be that. That's missing the point. That it's not something that you create, but something that is quite natural, in a natural state of being. It's allowing yourself to be. Rather than trying to get some particular idea, that, try to achieve something that you've already conceived of, or something that you remember. One of the kilesas of vipassana practice is memories of previous insights or previous experiences through meditation. That we have memory, we have them remember it, and then we want to have it again. If it's a pleasant or impressive memory that we're holding, then the desire forms to try to get it again. So notice, with insight into Dhamma isn't from memory. It's immediate. It's real. It's natural. And then we remember it. Then we once we remember something, then if we're not aware of how memory works, then we tend to practice meditation with the aim of remembering some moment, some insight we had previously, and then practicing in order to have that same experience again. So we do have retentive memories, and this is a great gift, but also out of ignorance and attachment it can blind us, always living in a realm of memory. So that's why in trusting yourself, in the sense of opening and trusting, not in what you think you are, any kind of personal criticisms or attitudes you have about yourself, but it's like a natural state of being that you can trust in, that you have right now, that is not something that you will attain through practicing meditation. So even the word meditation becomes another, thing we have to do. We define it, or we have views, opinions about what meditation is and how one should meditate, and what's good meditation and what's bad meditation, techniques and various things that we've used, we form opinions about them, and then see meditation is always something that we've got to do. Becomes another can become a compulsive habit. But the Pali word bhavana is meditation is an English word, and so it's a kind of catch-all word for anything you do with your mind, almost. Bhavana is actually the insight into the Fourth Noble Truth, or cultivating the path, or the Eightfold Path, or the way of non-suffering. So bhavana then isn't a technique or a kind of a method of any sort. It's the path is the way of mindfulness in the present. That's the only way it could be. It's not like a path in the world where you have to, it goes from here to there. But in this, the sense of path can be a confusing word in itself, because we immediately think of the path to London or the path to Berkhamsted or something like that. But the immediacy, mindfulness, the path to the deathless, awareness. There's so many of these in the scripture, ways of conveying this sense of immediacy, of here and now, of timelessness, of pure presence, and which is a matter of opening and recognizing rather than of attaining and achieving. And of course, to a mind that a self that's very much based on the idea of achieving and attaining, this is very frustrating. People love to be told methods and techniques and what to do next and how to get this state and that state, because this is what we're used to. Our conditioned personality is very much based on this. You do this in order to get that as a result. And that's the way the world operates, the conditioned realm, the dualistic realm. So it has its conventional reality. But but when we apply that, without awareness, without wisdom, to the bhavana, to the idea of, to meditation itself, then of course we can attain states through concentration. I'm not saying you can't, but anything you attain is also something that has its beginning and end. So it's whatever you get, whatever you attain, you lose. So the idea of attaining nibbana is like contradiction in terms. Though when people say, before the blessing in the mealtime, they say, dawn has been offered for this person, may she attain nibbana. I always feel a bit bemused by this. But it's really interesting to observe how words affect us, like attaining, achieving. these I understand very well because my personality is definitely programmed for that. As a person, a real attainer and achiever, goal-oriented. As my personality is like that. So when I first came into the Buddhist meditation scene, that was a natural way to interpret everything I read in the scriptures was through attaining and achieving, or getting rid of, kill the kilesas, fight the forces of Mara. These are this is the kind of language that I'm conditioned to understand and be motivated by that. So that's one thing. You have to start out from where you are. So the attaining and achieving mode did help at first. It got me started, and certainly, I quite enjoyed the challenge and the whole thing at first, just as on a personal level, being able to control the mind, get rid of the negative states, attain the blissful ones. But then, as one gets weary of this, you can only do it for so long, and then you don't want to do it anymore. Just after you've attained the states you've wanted, or maybe you haven't. You just feel you can't do it, or the situation you're in doesn't allow for it. So the whole self-view is put into question, and this is the anatta. Like when vipassana is the insight, looking into the nature of things, the four foundations of mindfulness. These scriptural teachings, where we use the three characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anatta, is the skillful means to break through the assumptions, the habit patterns, the self-view. When you attach to perceptions, to memories, to concepts and things like this, then this tends to fix things in your mind. Just like the sense of a self, your self-view, you tend to see yourself in a certain way because you have memory. And so, we describe ourselves as, modern ways of talking about ourselves is, I'm a hatred type, or dosa type, or a lopa, I'm a greedy type, or I'm a moha type. Or we see ourselves through our astrological problem, or we see ourselves as through the position we're in, through the assumptions we have about ourselves that we've acquired through our childhood up to the present. Sense of self-worth. So, there's there's problems around, should you develop the jhanas first and before you do vipassana, or can you just go straight into vipassana without the jhanas, or and then there's scriptural, people can back up both sides through scriptural quotes. So concentration practices, developing what they call jhanas, is certainly skillful means. But if it's done always from the self-view, me attaining jhanas, this I question. Me getting my samadhi, me getting my meditation practice together. This brings up a sense of me as a person. So in Sangha life, in monastic life, just reflect on what is the point of being a monk or a nun, a samana? Is it to just change your appearance so that you wear a robe and shave your head and then you make yourself into a Buddhist monk, a Buddhist nun, a Theravadan, a forest tradition type of person? Is that what we're doing? We're just, changing costumes. From a lay person, we become a monastic person. Or is a monastic life, when we reflect on the samana sanya, on the attitude of alms mendicancy, and that is not to reinforce the sense of I am an alms mendicant now, and I'm a celibate brahmacharya, and I'm a bhikkhu, I'm a siladhara, I'm a junior, senior, I'm anagarika, samanera. This kind of this of course feeds the self-view. I'm Ajahn Sumedho, I'm senior monk. This is a self-view, isn't it? So I'm using the position, the convention, everything for a reinforcement of myself as being a personality. Or is it, how to use it so it doesn't do that? So I can become just a kind of meditation master or teacher. And this of course, the personality view is reinforced. But in alms mendicant is like a beggar, really, someone dependent. We could even make that into some kind of arrogant position. I am an alms mendicant. I depend on the goodness of others for my survival, and make that into some identity also. Because that's the way language works. The concepts, conventions are all limited. And so it's learning how to use the convention with awareness, not to just identify with the convention and become a Buddhist monk, a Buddhist nun, but to use the convention to reflect the identities that we do, the way we can identify with it, the assumptions we make from it. So the personality my personality is very much conditioned to be one that feels confident personally when I feel successful, appreciated, accepted, admired, things are going well, and all that. Then on a personal level, I feel more confident. I feel very unconfident when things aren't going well, when I'm being criticized, being challenged, being considered a failure, not being good enough, then my personality, I get very unconfident, can get depressed. So the personal explanation of life is very dependent on conditions supporting me as a person, me in my position. Me as Ajahn Sumedho, then everybody says Ajahn Sumedho is a great teacher, good monk, all that. And then personally, that's quite builds confidence. Ajahn Sumedho doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. He's not even a proper Buddhist. He's a loose cannon in the Sangha. He's and then these kind of criticisms are, on a personal level, make me lose confidence. But the awareness, isn't it, of this, of feeling personally confident or personally not confident. Such saying, do I want to live my life depending on the approval of others and feeling successful and that, and then trying to live my life always with that in mind, to please others, to get the praise and the encouragement that I need personally in order to feel all right. Because that's very unstable, uncertain. So there's always the possible criticism or challenge. Or gossip. There's a rumor going around Bangkok these days that I've disrobed. And these rumors occur quite regularly. Ajahn Sumedho's disrobed. So this is, people. I mean, I find this amusing because I've absolutely no desire to disrobe or even, have any. This is not a problem for me, but yet people can spread rumors and opinions and views about you that can be quite harmful. Especially when you're in a prominent position, you're kind of sitting duck for people to shoot. But in the worldly life, then the person, just to know how my personality works. I found with Ajahn Chah, he was very skillful, like encouraging and gathering me in and getting me to kind of, see the value of monastic life, of keeping the Vinaya, of practice, and the way it all integrated and came together in the monastery, in the tradition. And so then that was very much appreciated. Also on the ego level, it made me confident. I have a good teacher, I'm accepted, I'm a member, appreciated by the Sangha and by the lay people. I'm supported, I feel good about myself in this way. So that was, very much appreciated in the beginning period. But then the aim was to really look at the self, not to just to, spend my life trying to sustain the illusion of myself and try to hold on to the position or demand that this be an ongoing experience, that I'm always accepted, admired, respected, member of the community as the kind of be-all and end-all of monastic life. So the initial acceptance, appreciation on that personal level meant quite a lot to me. But then, over time, things change. And criticisms, the kind of all the personal relationship and so forth would change in ways oftentimes I didn't like. But the reflective ability was the thing that Luang Por Chah was always encouraging. The whole life was for this alone. The monastic form, the way we lived our daily life in Wat Pa Pong was for this awareness, and to develop this awareness through the ups and downs on a personal level, the successes and failures, and the challenges to one's personality. Luang Por Chah, when I first started meditation, and I was maybe a year and a half before I met Ajahn Chah, so much of the attitude I developed was in achieving and attaining and getting jhanas and developing concentration in order to do the vipassana and so forth, so that this whole mindset was very much the underlying influence in practice. And then when I met Luang Por Chah, and asked him about that, and he wasn't interested in that, but in learning to just surrender. He said to learn the Vinaya and to do the way fit into the life of the monastery. And then the life in the monastery was based on the reflection on four requisites, on the morning pujas and evening pujas, the way we reflect. Sape sankarani cha, sape tamanata, rupang anichang, vedanani cha, things like this. These kind of repetitive chants. So the life was more, like learning how to sustain yourself as a monk, how to make your own robes, dye your robes in the natural dyes that they use there, and alms round, and the routine life of a Thai forest monastery. And he never said anything about developing jhanas to me, ever. So finally I went and asked him about it, and he emphasized that developing jhana factors, Vidaka, Vichara, Piti, Sukha, Ekagata. Now how do you develop jhana factors? And this is when you really reflect on it, these are relinquishments also. It's a relinquishing process rather than an attaining one. So when I'm trying to attain concentration through the sense of of my motivated by my personality and the habits that come from that, then I was always through a lot of control I could get concentrated, and but I had to really be in control, and felt very frustrated when things would get out of control. Where with the attitude of Ajahn Chah, it was much more not trying to do that. There was, no matter what, we always had to go on the alms round unless we were too sick to walk or something. And then in the afternoon, we always had to work. Everything was very primitive in those days, drawing water from the well, and it always demanded group effort, working together. So he didn't even want pumps put on the wells. Many people offered to put pumps so that you could just pump your own water. You wouldn't have to depend on anyone else. When you needed water, you just go use a hand pump. But he used it like a pulley on a rope. And in old kerosene tins they'd use, there's no electricity, so they used paraffin for lanterns and things like that. So there's a lot of these tins that they'd make into water receptacles, and you'd lower it down on a rope. It'd take several to pull it up. It's quite heavy. And then put it on a bamboo pole, and two monks, one in front, one in back, would carry these buckets of water to the various bathing places, to the kitchen, supplying the monastery's water needs. And this we had to do every day together. So, where my idea of attainment and achievement was very much based on my first year experience, where I didn't have to work. I had all the time in my kuti just to practice samadhi. So I liked that, where I'm just left alone, don't bother me, don't have to work, don't have to socialize, and just develop samadhi, which I, went through various emotional extremes at that time, but that was my idea at the time of real practice, real serious practice. Going to Wat Pah Pong, I began to wonder, because there's always something to do. You always had to go on the alms round. I always had to work in the afternoon. Relentless. We always had to, there was imperative that we attend the pujas morning and evening. So there was a lot of compulsion and pressure on us to conform to this routine, which I found quite, at first I thought it was just getting in the way, that it was counterproductive, because I had my own views about what practice really is. Intensive practice. So then I'd become disgruntled and go to Ajahn Chah, and he wouldn't relent in any way to my requests. If I was going to stay there, I had to just fit in to the way it was. Now then, the reflection on the four requisites, on the impermanence of conditioned phenomena, on the nature of the body, the the Asupa meditations, all of these things were oftentimes chanted. At first they didn't. When I first went there, they were just chanted in Pali, and then later they translated into Thai, so that you chant one line of Pali and the translation in Thai. But at first I didn't understand either, Pali or Thai. So I did have to figure it out pretty much on my own. But the actual, what Luang Por Chah was pointing to was contentment in the form, non-resistance. Learning to surrender from this egotistical desire to attain and achieve and get and control, and to letting go of all that, becoming a simple monk. And even though that can sound even romantic, being a simple monk, is certainly a pleasant ideal. Actually, my personality would like to be a simple monk if it's a special thing. Because it sounds good. But to be a simple monk, the reality of that was different. Because there was so much of myself involved in it, in trying to figure it out and achieve and even attain simplicity. So these are the reflection on the Four Noble Truths. This was the kind of reflections we had over and over again on the Four Noble Truths. The suffering, the cause of suffering. And realizing the way of non-suffering. So this takes a reflective capacity. You can't make yourself that way on the personal level. I can't make myself a contented person, a simple monk. I can pretend that I am. I can, I can act like I am that way. But that isn't getting to the cause of suffering, to suffering and its causes. It's merely, another delusion, trying to make myself into another ideal, monastic ideal. So that obviously doesn't work. You can fool yourself some of the time, but then there's always something that's going to really challenge you. No matter how simple and content you think you are, there's on a personal level, then beware, there's something going to happen that's going to really throw you off balance. So the aim is to cultivate this awareness, and then the jhana factors develop from this simplicity, from this sense of not striving, of not trying to get and attain, through being free from just endless kind of obsessions about trying to get something or get rid of something. So as one appreciates and finds joy in the life of monasticism, then then the jhana factors are naturally the result of that. You feel a lot of piti or rapture, happiness, contentment that come quite naturally through relinquishment rather than through control and attainment. Now in the world to this day, there are many monks say that Ajahn Chah taught like this and taught like that. So, and I'm not. I mean, a lot of what they say I can't relate to from my own experience. And this is just sharing my experience with Ajahn Chah. I'm not saying that I'm the foremost authority on how Ajahn Chah taught, but this is what I've learned from it, from living with him. Now, the Buddha's teaching, of course, is, the uniqueness of Buddhism. What makes Buddhism unique in the pantheon of religions is that it's not an attaining style. It's not theistic. It's not trying to attain some kind of desired state. So that the Four Noble Truths are about very banal, ordinary human experience that we all have all the time. Every day we suffer in some way, dukkha of some kind. Just the feeling of doubt and dissatisfaction, or complaining mind, or feeling intimidated, or envious, or whatever the fears and desires that we have, part of our human condition, are then pointed to in this way of a noble truth, rather than as just bad karma that I have to get rid of. If I think I've got to get rid of my suffering on a personal level, I can see no possible way to do that as a person. I can understand the ideal, being free from all suffering. That's the ideal, certainly, beautiful, but it is an ideal. The reality then is recognized through awareness. The dukkha, the First Noble Truth, is recognized, not analyzed, not personalized, and not with the attempt to get rid of it, or think that I shouldn't suffer, or create any complications around it, just to understand it. Dukkha is like this. So when I let go of my attempts to figure out why I'm suffering, when I stop doing that, then I just recognize in this realm of my personality conditioning, a sense of just dis-ease all the time. There's something incomplete. Recent translation I've read of somebody's translation of dukkha is lack, the sense of lack or incompleteness, something missing. And the kind of anxiety that comes from that is wanting fulfillment, wanting completion. So then we can seek ways of trying to find complete ourselves through endless analyses, therapies, relationships, adventures, and whatnot. And the ways of that are quite commonly used to fill in that lack. Or the Buddha was to me, the Buddha was pointing to the lack itself as the first noble truth. Not that, not in a judgmental way, but just to be conscious of it, understand it, recognize it. Because if we don't recognize it, then we operate from reacting to it. There's the idea that I should find completion, I should be fulfilled in my life. I need something else to make me feel complete and whole. The perfect person, the perfect partner, the perfect situation, the perfect teacher, perfect religion, whatever. So then the Ajahn Chah would, challenge us, like, when we'd get restless about Wat Pa Pong, you get bored with staying in the same place. And of course the way they destroyed the food there, the stories I've told about how Luang Por Chah mixed it all up. And so it was absolutely horrible food you got. And nothing tastes worse than pouring all kinds of pork and fish and chicken curries all together. And so the food was an easy one to say, to feel discontented with Wat Pa Pong, because all the other branch monasteries had better food than Wat Pa Pong. So, be discontented because, they could also blame Ajahn Chah in a kind of sadistic way. Do that. And yet, in the long run, the challenge was there. It was the contentment. Wasn't that I ever liked the food, but I recognized that I could learn to eat it, and that my contentment was not in trying to find a place where I liked the food better, but in being content with what is offered, that kind of reflection. Now, I couldn't make myself do that, even though I understood the ideal of it. It's just through letting the discontentment become conscious. And then thinking about a better place, a better monastery, being aware of that, of conceiving that some other place is better. And so more like the attitude of insight into development, this is good enough the way it is for this understanding of dukkha. Because when I really reflected, I didn't see, that I could see I was creating all kinds of problems around didn't like the food, but I created that dislike. I created my suffering around the conditions that I was living in. And this, I thought Ajahn Chah was very skillful in getting me to see that, because it was so easy, to blame, put the blame outwardly. I'm discontented and because of the food or the weather's too hot or too much work and things like this. So it's easy for me to even justify and make a good case to leave, to go someplace else because of these factors. But when I really took the position of the samana, then I realized it was adequate. The four requisites were adequate. And the Dhamma Vinaya was what was being taught and encouraged there. So in this way, the contentment came through that kind of reflection. And through recognizing how I create discontentment. I create my suffering. Now that's quite an insight to see that, because culturally conditioned to always blame external things for my suffering. Or I even can blame myself as a person. My personality, my experience of life and things like that. Because of my parents or didn't get the best of everything in my life, then I suffer because of all the things that were imperfect in the society and the family and all like that, which we do a lot in the West. Seek to blame. But in terms of the reality of this moment, the here and now, the suffering, is it because you're sitting here and because of the monastery or the group or the tradition or the this or that, or is it just your desire for something, wanting it to be better, not wanting it to be the way it is, not wanting yourself to be the way you are, not wanting this moment to be, wanting it to end, wanting something, not wanting something. So these you can only recognize through reflecting on it. It's not a position you take on the intellectual level. It's not an attitude that that you operate from, but you reflect on what this First Noble Truth really is in your own experience. So even if, if I'm abusing you right now, I'm calling you all kinds of horrible names, humiliating you at this moment, and you say, I'm suffering because Ajahn Sumedho is a tyrant. He's an insensitive, selfish, conceited, arrogant bigot, and he doesn't like me and he's persecuting me. And then you say, I'm suffering because of him. Or, even if that, I'm not prone to do that, but even if that's happening to you, what is the suffering really? Is the aversion, anger you create in your mind. So that like the Christian example of being crucified, and that Jesus being crucified, and you think, these people are persecuting me. All these Romans and Jews and that, they're putting nails in my body, humiliating me, stripped naked, publicly humiliated as a criminal. What worse thing could happen? So it's and certainly you may have you can justify your anger and aversion to the people doing it to you. But then what made Jesus not just another, human being that then blamed the world for his suffering was the recognition. They forgive them for they know not what they do. And it wasn't blaming, was it? You horrid, nasty people, how dare you treat me like this? I'm the Messiah after all. Then the surrender to the restriction, that's quite in Christian symbolism, isn't it? The surrender to the restriction of the cross and the situation. I mean, that's a very extreme example, which I hope none of us will ever have to endure. And because of its extremity, sometimes it's hard to relate to it in our own lives. You think of it always as suffering as something on a grand scale, like being crucified. But the Buddha is bringing suffering into just the ordinariness of being human, breathing, sitting, standing, walking, lying down, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. The ordinariness of daily life and the suffering we create, that is just, nothing compared to being crucified and publicly humiliated and despised, like the Christian example. So that the emphasis on the ordinariness, mindfulness, is not a highly attained state. It's not kind of fantastic or something to congratulate yourself with. I'm a very mindful person. I'm more mindful than you are. It's not the prerogative or a gift of through special being a special kind of person. The natural state, and this is where then we can reflect on the reality of this moment, the suffering, the discontentment, disease, doubts, worries about ourselves, about the world, about anything, whatever. We're awakening to suffering, not of any particular extreme, but just the reality of this sense of ignorance, lack, uncertainty, insecurity that is part of our human state, that is natural to this human state until we awaken to it. So there is a way out of it, isn't it? That through understanding, through recognizing, not through changing everything so that we feel secure and safe and appreciated and create the utopian society, where everything is as it should be. And how many desperate attempts have been made in our own lifetime towards creating perfect utopian societies that increase the suffering. Just the ideal of how trying to make a perfect society is an ideal. But the realities of this moment do not demand perfection on the conventional level. It's just reflecting on the way it is. Learning to cultivate this way of awareness. First to recognize it, and then to develop it. Not that most people don't recognize the awareness, don't really see it. It's not that they're not aware, but it's not noticed, not appreciated. In this way, then we're really, this is a very special opportunity to really recognize, realize this way. And as we affirm that, recognize it, then we can cultivate that. We do it in our daily life, just through the daily life we live here at Amaravati. But until you recognize it and about it, then of course your life here will be a series of ups and downs and highs and lows and so forth, and that's because that's the way you're conditioned to experience life, through the extremities.